Good evening, everyone. Let me welcome you once more to this edition of Real Talk. Of course, Real Talk, as you know, happens every Monday night. Real Talk with the United Workers Team Dominica political leader. I am Dr. Thomson Fontaine. I'm normally joined by our public relations officer, Mr. Glenroy Soso, who will be hopefully joining us a little bit later. But it's good to be with you once more. It's good that we can be live on a Monday, doing this every single Monday night. And it's always a pleasure. So let me say thank you so much for being a part. Let me say thank you so much for joining us. Tonight on this edition, we have a really exciting program lined up for you as we'll be discussing, as always, issues of national importance, issues of political importance, but more important, issues that concerns you, issues that we believe that you should be familiar with as a voter, as someone here in Dominica, you should know. So it's good to have you on board with us. Let me also say, as we start off tonight is election night in St. Lucia, election night indeed, and the Labour Party, St. Lucia Labour Party, they're up against the United Workers' Party of Alan Chastanet. So Alan Chastanet, the leader of the United Workers' Party, going up against Jean-Pierre, who is the Prime Minister and the leader of the St. Lucia Labour Party. The polls are already closed and the first set of results are coming in. From all reports, it's going to be a very tight contest over in St. Lucia. Nothing, I believe, approaching what we saw in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which was a complete blowout by the opposition NDC, defeating the St. Vincent, the United Labour Party of Prime Minister Gonzalez in a very decisive action that happened on Thursday of last week. And just a few days later, on December 1st, we're having elections in St. Lucia. Incidentally, the elections in St. Lucia, they've been called several months early. Elections were not due until next year. The Prime Minister called the elections early. Some persons believe that he called it early because of issues surrounding the CPI program, their own version of the CBI program. But for whatever reason, he called it early. So let's see what happens. The history sometimes of calling early elections are not always work in the favor of the incumbent because people see it as, you have all this time. Why are you not doing it? Why are you not actually, why are you not participating? Why are you calling it so early and not, allowing the process to run through? So people read sometimes into that, and you have times where, that could be an issue. But let's see. It will be interesting to see. We had elections a few months ago in Trinidad and Tobago in April of this year. And again, the opposition party won there. And before that, there were elections in Anguilla, where the opposition party in that country also won. So it was kicked off in Anguilla. So we had elections in Anguilla, then Trinidad, then St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now we are having elections in St. Lucia. And from St. Lucia, it will either be Dominica or Antigua next. All right. So it will be very interesting to see how that goes. All right. So we, of course, keeping a very close eye out for the elections there in St. Lucia. All right. Keeping a very, very watchful eye on those elections. All right. So we have, I believe, with us, we have Glenroy Soso Coffee. Let me say good night to you, Soso.
Oh, yes. Good evening to you, Doc. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm still not seeing you, Zep, but certainly can hear you.
See. I've seen him in the show. I don't know. You have to probably put me in. I don't know you. Have you?
Yes, I have, but for some reason you're not connecting.
Okay, well,
all right, so let's do this again.
Let's see what happens.
All right, you need to get your unless you get your video in, then it says I can stream you in. So let's just do that. So as always, anytime we have those difficulties, if you can just exit and come back in, let's see if that works.
Yeah, just see that.
Yeah. All right. So we again, hopefully, we can get this very small issues rectified quickly, and so will be joining us. Yeah, so let's see what happens in St. Lucia. It's it should be a very interesting one. And a lot of discussion around the yellow code. Basically, a lot of people believe in, well, the Labour parties have had quite a long stay here, all right? And so is with us. So yeah, I was just talking about the yellow code that is around the Caribbean, and with elections going on in St. Lucia, it should be an interesting night. Probably not as interesting or as mind bending as it was in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but let's see what happens in St. Lucia tonight, our sister country.
Oh yes, certainly. I've got quite a few friends in St. Lucia myself, and I've been in constant contact with them. And all they were saying to me is that somehow it appears that this election cycle this time around it is competitive, and probably the Labour Party may have an edge, but it seems that it is likely that the UWP can outdo them. However, it is still a little tight, and one of the contentious issues that I think that surfaced in a long time is that the Labour Party had promised to at least open the St. Jude's Hospital. That I think has since been opened, but I think what St. Lucians are saying is that yes, you have an open building, but you do not have all of what it takes to have the hospital operational. And I think that's what is the contentious issue there right now. However, notwithstanding, I mean, you have heard multiple views across the St. Lucia. St. Lucians that believe that the present government probably has done quite enough to sustain them another 5 years. Others feel that they have not done enough and they need to go. But let's see, it's very interesting. I believe a number of persons are glued to their televisions and obviously they are listening attentively on radios to hear what is happening. And Doc, I don't think I want to take a chance on predicting anything, but all I can say is that once that wave of change is happening, that's all I'm concerned about, because in Dominica too, I think more than ever, Dominicans are eager for that wind of change. So let the wind blow, let it blow in the direction of change. But I think now it'll be interesting to see what comes out with this election. But it tells you that, what is nice about elections, and people feel, after they have given a government mandate for 5 years, if this government has not really performed, then it is their duty to say, look, enough is enough, you have to go. And the history, by the way, before you come in, that St. Lucia has had for the past 3 election cycles, St. Lucia seemed to have been changing government for the past 3 election cycles. So they put Labour, they put UWP, then Labour, then UWP. That's how they have been going for the past 3 election cycles.
Yeah, but I mean, the weight of evidence is that countries that continue to have those types of governments in place for a very long time, they don't do as well as countries that change governments on a regular basis. There is some dynamism, there is something to being able to change your government, because what it means effectively, if one government is not performing, you change. And very often when you have a government that stays on as long as we saw in St. Vincent and in Dominica, they tend to believe that they own the country, that they can do as they please, and you get all sorts of outrageous decisions that have been made, and more they get further and further away from the people that they were meant to serve. And you have those kinds of actions, right? In the case of Dominica, government, one prime minister building several mansions, having the most expensive vehicles, and you wonder where all of that is going. You wonder, what about it? You were not in office. You're not put in office to build mansions. You're built in office to make the lives of the people better. Yet we have a prime minister that seems to be overindulging in those types of things. And, that happens when you keep a government too long in office. So I believe that the realization is beginning to dawn on a number of Dominicans. And as we intensify our efforts, so going around the country, you're getting the reports. People are not happy with this government and they're just waiting. In fact, there are some people, the only question they have for me when they see me is, when are the elections? That's all they want to know. They're really anxious to get rid of this prime minister and this government, as we all are, because they have not performed. And clearly you have a situation where it is just an intense focus on what is best for me and not what is best for the country. And it's time we break that. It's time we do away with that and go back to responsible government, to a government that cares about the people and takes care of the needs of the people. That's exactly what is needed at this time in Dominica.
Yes, and that is very true because the people are the pillar of the whole system. And it seems to me that they don't respect the people, but every election cycle they must go back to the people. So the people must realize they don't have the power to change things. And so, as we say that, I'm agreeing with you that this government in Dominica has failed the people of Dominica. They have failed so miserably here that they had what they call do something Saturday past in Cassibus. But here what happened? We had what they call, normally we have community of service. Community of service, the whole government cabinet went down to Cassibus to paint, just to paint. Couldn't they have that on the day of community service for the Cassibus community? So imagine that a government who has failed the people of Dominica went in large numbers down to Cassibus to paint an area.
But so
Imagine that.
I would go a step further though. Not only
Yes.
that, they were painting the health center. In days gone by, what would happen is you would have a small contractor in that village who would be contracted to do that work, so that some
Right,
money would go in the village. Now, if
right,
a political party wants
right.
to do something, they should do it for a private individual.
That's
But where
it.
you have a situation of a political party taking onto themselves now to paint a health center and not give that work to a deserving contractor in the village, again taking money out of the hands of people, so that's what the Labour Party breeds. That is where we are with this Dominica Labour Party. I see no good sense in that. That to me is taking away monies from the people. It's not saving the government, it's taking away money from what should be. If you want to do something like that, do it for a private individual, but not for government installations. And I think that speaks to where we are, and exactly reinforces the point that we are making, that when you have a government that's in office for that long, it does not know what to do. Clearly have lost its way, and it's about how much money I can make out of this government, how much millions more I can mint, how much more mansions I can build, how many fancy cars I can drive, and that to me is immoral. Where we are right now in Dominica with our governance, and hence the reason why the people of Dominica are waking up. And I can tell you, so they are, man. I'm very, very excited about the conversations we've been having with people across Dominica, and we're getting to that point. We will see something. We will see a repeat of St. Vincent and the Grenadines here in Dominica. There's no question in my mind.
Yes, and remember too, before St. Vincent, you had what had transpired in Trinidad. So it appears that things are happening. But you made a point that we must stay on a little bit where this government continues to compete with its people. And I've always said this government is an enemy to its own people. And I say so because I have reason to say so. I have justification to say so. And I will tell you, Doc, you know, before we used to say, look, you had skilled people coming forward, putting in their application for jobs whenever there are jobs. And this government continues to actually compete, even in the private sector. So you see, they have gone into what they call the abattoir. That could be in a private sector project. You see, they went into fertilizer, giving fertilizer. This government went into ham and turkey, competed in the private sector again. And today, just Saturday that passed there again, instead you contract a local contractor in the village where he himself could actually employ a few young men who may not be employed presently. You are coming and you're competing with them. You're getting your salary already, but you're taking an entourage of labor people. You yourself in the prime minister and you're going down to the Pinter Health Center. Whereas, of course, that bread could have gone to someone or a deserving contractor in any of the neighboring constituencies, or let's say in the neighboring hamlets that would want to undertake this project with a crew. So again, you can see this government is for itself. It cares about no one. It cares about not. It doesn't care about empowering young people. It doesn't care about empowering contractors. Look at our passports, for instance. You see people come with no money in their pocket, but they work out as millionaires. How many millionaires in Dominica can we boast of? Or people over the years that this government has been in power, 25 years now, and you cannot pull out one local millionaire. And I'm talking about those that are selling passport. I'm talking about those that are skilled and equipped with the necessary skill set to undergo work like construction work. And we have had a lot of construction going on. Housing, health center, who has been doing it? MMC and the Chinese. So we have to be serious about where we go. And people of Dominica, you must be understanding why this wind of change is taking place. And we cannot miss the boat. It's our time. We just cannot miss the boat. So, Doc, you're on
Yes,
point.
indeed.
You're on point when you
Mhm.
say this.
Yes, yes.
What?
So So one of the things we wanted to discuss tonight, so is obviously the whole issue of the minimum wage that has been introduced,
Oh
and to
yes.
ask the question whether or not the salaries are that are being paid, whether they are meeting the needs of the people. And let me ask you a question. How much do you think right now, if you were to, I don't know when last you hired a day laborer, like someone to work for you on your plantation or something, how much do you think they would charge you today?
Right. Today, well, I know
A
in my
day, a
time,
day, a day
when I used
nowadays.
to be active and because I stayed as a banana farmer for 15 years, I was active selling bananas. In fact, I still remember my code, C5595-1N. Dash 1N means that I usually district home, and I sold bananas for 15 years to the UK market. And I had about 3 employees that time, and that time I used to pay $60 a day.
Okay.
Currently, I have a small truck. I
And
contract.
how many years? How many years ago that? How many
Oh,
years ago that was?
that is about 15, 16 years ago.
Okay.
But let me answer your question currently, because right now I have a contract, and I know I have one or two guys employing me, and they get $100 per day. You know? Right there.
No, I am laughing because I was on the Matt program today, and I made the point to Matt that we have legislation, or not legislation, minimum wage rates that have been announced by the Prime Minister, and it's a joke because those rates are now trying to catch up with rates that are already been paid in most
Paid.
instances. So guess what? They're offering a worker, a laborer, $75 an hour, roughly based on the $9.72 per hour. It works
$75
out
an
to
hour.
roughly $70
I
a day. Sorry,
oh
a day.
oh so
Works at $75 a day. But I was like, wait a minute. The last time I hired somebody, I paid them $75. That's the asking
yes,
rate.
yeah,
You are paying $75 now for any worker that you hire to work with you
yeah,
for a day.
yeah,
In fact, in some cases, they even charge you $150.
right,
But at least the minimum they will charge is $75. So
yeah.
now the legislation is catching up with what has already been offered, the $75. So I'm saying that they got this all wrong. The rates that are announced, they are supposed to be followed by action from people. But if that rate already exists, why are you now establishing that as the minimum wage? It showed that your minimum wage was out of whack a long time ago
A
and people
long
had
time.
already moved on. And that is one of the problems that I have. So we have $75 for these workers, and I can give you some of the other rates because I'm looking at the from the Ministry of Labor, and the
Yes.
press and the wage structure that was mentioned is not
Mention, yes.
legislated, by the way. It's just some kind of circular. Well, it went through Parliament. It went through Parliament. But it says following the budget address, some board undertook a detailed analysis,
Right,
and the cashiers or receptionists are now being paid $9.42 an hour.
right.
That works out to roughly $1,400 a month right now.
Still doesn't
Okay.
beat what you come up with.
So roughly 1,400 a month. Again, a number I spoke briefly to a couple entrepreneurs today, and some of them are already paying that
Paying this,
to
of
their
course, of
cashiers, the
course, of course, of course,
$1,400.
of course.
Then you have cooks that have gone up to $9 an hour. Nine eight $76 a day. Bartenders the same. So roughly, bartenders, servers, room attendants, groundsmen, all of these are 9 hours an hour. All
Right,
right. So roughly $76 a day. That again, $1,500. That to
right,
me does not cut it. It does not meet what we were expecting. And of course, we have to caution there is an obvious cost because some business places would have to pay that now. If they're not yet paying it, they now have to find this extra money to support those higher wages. But when we promised our $12 minimum wage on our 10 pillars, it was part of a broader package of tax incentives that we're going to provide because we need to cushion the impact on the entrepreneurs and the small business persons, because the last thing you want is to put a wage structure that now makes it impossible for that small business to keep functioning or to keep operating. You cut right into their profits
that's
and
right.
they no longer find it profitable. We've had enough business closures over the years. A number of businesses are closing. We just had a very famous Tikai restaurant closed down on us there in Roseau. and I understand another one closed recently. So we have all of these different business places closing, those that are there just hanging on by a thread. So there may be some concerns there that as you raise those wages, that you're going to impact these businesses negatively. So that is something that we have to be aware of. But again, it has to be part of a package. You have to have in place those measures have to be in place as well. It's very important that you have the measures where you ensure that those minimum wages that are announced are in fact legislated, and you have that legislation to guide the process. So we don't have that. We don't have the legislation guiding the process. We just have some risks announced that are clearly not meeting the expectations of a number of persons. And thirdly, we see very little support for the small businesses in that whole process. So that, I think, is where the problem is as far as that particular minimum wage is concerned. So.
Yes, and I'm happy that you were able to again explain to the listeners that what was proposed, in fact, was twofold. Not only that this minimum wage is going to be just bearable on the persons who have to pay, but you were talking like tax incentives given to them, so that therefore they could at least mitigate. The whole thing is that this government is rushing because, Doc, you propose with your United Workers Party team, Dominica, that you would give the minimum wage of $12, which is doable because you'll have done the
And
necessary.
I announced that on June 3rd, a full month and a half before the budget.
A full month and a half before the budget. And the budget came, nothing was in place for the budget. The independence speech came, then we heard something happening. So June, July, then August, September, October, November. It took them 3 months and a half to say, well, something is coming. They still were not clear yet as to what was coming. Now we are in the rush it, and now they actually just repeating what exists already and putting in place what exists. I mean, it's a holistic approach towards the whole idea of augmenting one side and loss. You're not living one side of the scale like this and one side up. You need a balance here. So the people who are going to actually face the increase to their workers must be able to get some incentives so that they will feel that, look, my business now is incentivized, so therefore I can meet the cost or the additional cost to pay workers. And given the economic climate right now, it doesn't even seem realistic. However, we will appreciate that an attempt is being made, although it's in a rush, but you can see that careful due diligence was done on our part, where we actually did the evaluation, and it is doable. That we could reach that point where $12 could be offered, and knowing that they heard that, they just wanted to go ahead, but not actually carefully analyzing the situation and situations as they were. So I think
and then also so I would like, as we're having that discussion, it would be nice if someone that is listening right now can put in the comments and tell us how much they are paying their construction workers. Because I believe most construction workers now get $100, at least $100 a day.
Lord, I saw somebody put there, I pay my gardener $80 for 6 hours. And myself, exactly. And I do
$80 for 6 hours. That's almost $14. That's $13 and change. Correct. $13 and change per hour. I think it's the 9 that is being offered now. As I said, 9 puts us at $75, $76. That's right. For an 8-hour week. I'm talking about 8 hours. A construction worker, $75.
Right.
I don't think there's any construction site in Dominica where those construction workers get $75 a day.
No,
it's more likely $100 and up.
Yeah, because remember, too, in construction, you have different skill set. You have steel benders, you have carpenters, you have mason, you have the contractor.
Yeah, but they're referring to that totally unskilled, like the guys that they would just do, like come and do a day job or something.
Oh yes, a day job. Yes.
It's the unskilled that's at $9 an hour. The skilled, like the masons and carpenters and so on, they're already way past.
They're already getting 120, 100, 120 in the region of that.
Yes.
I myself casually, I employ casually. There's nothing full time about my little small truck running, but when I do get a gig there and there, I pay my guys between $80 and $100 based on the volume of load. So these people are just wasting time and just want to do something. But I'm happy too, though, that the United Workers Party team Dominica has taken the lead, and then they follow. So it seems to me that this government is a wicked government. It appears all the time that they are wicked, because the point is, you see, you had to sit down with your team to think of that and to bring that out for them to at least attempt to do something. And in still trying to do something, they have been rushing and doing something already that exists. So imagine you come and you legislate that $9 per hour, let's say, for hotel people and whatever. Again, people are paying that already. So what do you do?
You know, someone is saying it's $200 for construction workers
Well, it
that have
varies,
been
yeah?
paid currently.
Yeah, it varies. It
Skilled
varies.
workers. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think anybody gets $75 now, you know. So, so that's an attempt. They're trying to catch up. They're not even catching up,
Yeah,
with
okay.
the current realities. And
You
that's
gotta
a
catch
problem.
up.
But so what about the NEP program? No changes were made to the NEP's
No changes will be.
wages. So persons are still getting the $750 to $1,000, which is
Yeah,
way below
low.
the same minimum wages announced by the government. And I'm asking the question, can the government ask the private sector to impose or to pay their workers these minimum wages and turn around and employ persons in a national employment program and pay them a fraction of what it is that they're saying should be the minimum wage? Because at $1,000, if you can do a quick math, that's $250 a week. 18 to 24, that is how much? So that's about $7-8, $750 or so for the $1,000. Yeah,
That's
it's
about
about
it.
that.
It's about that. It's about that.
Yeah. And they're
It's
saying
about
now it
that.
should be $9. Because if you're paying $9 at an 8-hour day, 9 hours will take you to about 1,004, just about over
Right.
1,004 a month. So it means that if you're getting $1,000 as you are, or $750 within the NEP program, you are certainly making less than the $9 an hour. And the question is, can the government of Dominica tell the private sector you need to be paying those wages to your workers, and they're paying their own workers who are working, who are being paid with taxpayer dollars less than the minimum wage? And that's the question I would want to know. So I'm going to bat tonight so for the National Employment Program persons. There's a lot of propaganda going around that when we win the election, we are going to do away with the NFP program, we're going to send people home and so on, putting fear in the hearts of the people. But tonight, we are batting for the NEP workers to get better salaries and better wages that have been paid to them, and $1,000 does not cut it. And again, I'm asking the question, can the government of Dominica get away with having the private sector pay these minimum wages and they're not paying it themselves to their own workers?
Very good. Very, very good observations. I wanted to respond to that. But interestingly, yeah, Doc, it appears to me the incumbent always have some fear and to do some fear mongering for the people, to have a sort of indecisive mind as to what they want to do. Similarly, in St. Vincent, you have what they call YES program. They call it the Youth Empowerment Service, and that is targeting youth between 18 and 33 years in St. Vincent. And they target people that come up from school, and they actually deploy them in various sectors so that they get a sense of the world of work. And so now, what they were doing, the incumbent over there, Ralph Gonzalez and his team, they were actually saying to the people, if you give the NDP a chance, they will do away with the YES program. But if Vincent said, no, that is St. Vincent money. It's a government program, Once it is instituted, who's going to touch that? Who's going to be against their people? So Dominicans, rest assured, man, this is just fear mongering, and for you to just lose sight of the focus of what you have to do. You must not lose sight of that focus. And let me just remind you what this government has been doing to itself. And let me remind you, compare that with what they are doing to you. Remember, some time ago, that the government went in the parliament and they passed legislation for them to get $1,000 for medical bill every month. So whether they're sick or not, they get it $1,000 for their medical bills. So whether they visit doctor or not, but that is their thing. Remember, they could. So they have money, they're doing that. They can put that on account. Whenever they're sick, they can visit. And remember, some time ago, they went in the parliament. The same day, they asked a body to look into wage increase or whatever, and they took 52% increase for themselves. They did that bold-facedly. A week ago, what happened? A new vehicle for the prime minister. How much it costs? Mm-hmm. So instead they focus on the people, they are focusing on themselves. People of Dominica, can you continue to support the government to support themselves? Or will you want to support the government that want to support you? And you have to ask yourself these questions tonight, because it's really unreasonable for you as the electorate to put somebody in government, and when you think that they're going to look into your interests, then they're looking at theirs. Well, I'm telling you, you can do better than that. We can do better than that because the United Workers' Party certainly will not do what this government has done to you. We'll do better. In fact, you've heard the political leader said from time and time again, and the United Workers' Party has expressly said that we are going to improve on the on the program on the NEP. We are
NEP.
going to make it more sustainable. We are going to look for jobs where you can have upward mobility. You can have upward mobility in cutting grass. And it seems to me the government so know that the economy is weak and they cannot deploy you in any other area, then you remain planting flowers. Nothing wrong with planting flowers. But I'm asking, in every work, everyone is aspiring to go higher in that work. Can you get upward mobility in cutting grass? So let me tell you, so the upward mobility is who cut the bigger grass then? Doc, your response.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here shaking my head so because as you mentioned again, you brought up the expensive vehicle, and I was on a radio program today, and we're discussing this issue, and I says, well, I'm sitting against the prime minister having this expensive vehicle, and somebody says, well, what's wrong in the prime minister having a new vehicle? I said, what is wrong is why should he have the most expensive Land Cruiser?
Ah,
You can get them. Why do you want the most expensive one on the lot? This one costs over 250,000 EC dollars. Okay, that's just for transport. And you have people who, $250,000 for a lot of Dominicans is just dream money, is monopoly money.
yes,
You
yes,
know,
yes. Yes.
they, they will not get that in this country. If they would have to work many, many, many years in this country. For example, the same persons receiving the 1,005, they would have to work, over 10, 15 years to make that money. And the prime minister finds it from taxpayer dollars to buy a vehicle to drive him around the streets of Roseau that are potholed and falling apart, cracked pavements, you know, a state of disrepair, and that's what we have, So you have this very contrary type of existence here in Dominica. The country's not doing well. People are struggling. On the other hand, you have opulence. You have the prime minister taking up $75 million from our CBI sales and giving it to a public servant, saying, "Here, go build yourself a hotel." And you wonder where else can that happen? And so you have those types of excesses that we're seeing. At the end of the day, the people are, in fact, really, really digging hell. And also, so when you think of the fact, we're talking about the minimum wage, but you have the other scale. You're talking about the public servants that
Yes.
have been denied salary increases.
Increases.
You're
Yeah.
talking about the police officers, the nurses, the fire officers, the public service, and not only that, and that is something else. And I've been discussing as we go around the island, listening to people and talking to them. One of the themes that keep coming up repeatedly are just the number of public servants who are not appointed. I met this one gentleman I was actually yesterday that we were talking, and he says, I've been working now for 7 going on 8 years, and every year I get a letter saying your temporary position has been renewed, and I cannot be appointed. I can't go to the bank for loan. I want to start a small business. I would like to do that, but I can't go to the bank. 7 years I'm working, I'm getting a salary every month, but the bank will not accept it because I am a temporary worker. Government will not employ me in my field. And that's a gentleman who is skilled, who has a first degree, by the way, you know. And there are teachers that tell me every day, they've been some teachers working for 10, 15 years. They have not been appointed. Nurses, the same thing. You have police officers. If they could make constables acting constables, they would make them acting constables.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
you're
they
right.
cannot make
Correct.
them. So they make them acting corporals, acting sergeants, acting captains. If they could make them acting constables, they would. And so you have so many persons within the public service not having that opportunity to have a permanent employee within the government. And I'm told, and it appears to me, having talked to a number of public servants, it seems to me what this government is trying to avoid
Yes.
is what comes at the end of that, the gratuity and pensions. You see, for that 10 years that you're working as an unemployed, as a temporary person, you're not appointed, you cannot get gratuity for that period. You see? So if you decide to stay, and there are people 10, 15, 20 years, so after 20 years, acting all that time, you do not really have a gratuity. If you get, is a very small amount because it has a part to play with your pensions.
That's right.
The gratuity and pensions are designed for persons in permanent employment. So if the government keeps persons on the temporary list, they don't appoint them, then they know that they by the time these persons retire after serving the state all of those years, they will not have gratuities in place. And I find that is absolutely cruel. You
Right.
know, that is cruel. Why are you not employing? Why are you not making those positions permanent? At least give them a chance, as this young man wanted to do a small business. They can go to the bank and get some money and do a small business because he has a reasonable salary, but he cannot use it. And so that's the kind of situation we have in Dominica. So not only do we have those really horrible horrible attempts at correcting the minimum wage situation. But even for persons who are employed, you have those added problems. And that's why we're calling out this government tonight. And we are speaking on behalf of the public servants of this country. And that's the other reason why, so that we are promising the public servants that if you're good enough to work for the government service, you're good enough to get appointed. And I remember when I came back to Dominica after studying, I was on probation for 3 months and then I got appointed. Just 3 months. And then I was appointed. So by the time I left 7 years later, I had some gratuity that accumulated to me that I could use towards my studies. But you have a situation where the people of Dominica have been taken for a ride in every single respect. And I don't know. And that's why, man, I have to big up our nurses and our teachers and our police officers and those public servants that come to work day in, day out and commit to country, and the government is not taking care of them. So my hat's off to them. Sometimes we are very hard on our public servants. They say, oh, you go to the office, they're not paying attention, they come late, but the motivation is not there, the morale is not there. So people need to be aware of that.
Doc, I just read it from my phone. Then a young person again, our same usual person said, Doc, I just like this program because what it is that you're focused on what is that you're going to do for Dominica, and we can see that you are passionate about it. You really want good for us, because what is happening in the past is that we spend a lot of time talking about the prime minister and the prime minister empowering him and giving him more publicity. But the thing that hurtful about it is that right now you are putting plans forward and it has the government on the back foot. So you must take credit for what job well done. We are satisfied that we are hearing about plans of the United Workers' Party and not just about what the government has not done. So kudos to Dr. Thomson, Fontaine and his team. So that's from a young person. But Doc, you made the point earlier on, and let's go back to this hotel that was built the other day there, and monies were given to a public servant. No, that is very serious. Let me tell you. I don't know what the act says in terms of the Public Service Act. And that, to me, we'll have to explore a little bit to get there. But I'm not going there. The hotel is in Dominica. It's a Dominican who owns it. Fair enough. But yeah, look, each and every one of us know that when one is put to work, then from your work, you have to build up wealth because you have experience over years. Then you decide you want to go and build a house. You take a loan. Sometimes you buy a land first and you tell the bank, look, I have a plan. Here's my property. And here I would like you to furnish me X amount of money based on the estimates for the said building. But here what is happening? Initially, you would have what they call equity because the land itself is equity. Sometimes the bank furnishes everything. But the point is the mere fact that you're borrowing from the bank means that the bank going to make interest from you. And obviously the bank later can pay this bill, employ other persons, and at least expand its portfolio of services and so. But here what is happening? You have the passport money. That is a shit. Don't guys listen to that, The passport money. Purchase that piece of land at Lade Coco. Purchase the piece of the person who is building the hotel, fair enough, is your hotel. But where is your equity? You did not purchase the land from your pocket or take a loan, The passport purchased that land. Then you got that $75 million. But you know what is bad about it? I think you got $12 million for developers fee or development fee. What is called it? Developers fee. 12
Developers,
million.
yeah,
Developers fee,
12
12
million.
million after you did not
Yes.
have equity, you did not put one pinch of dollar in that. Then you come and you harvesting $12 million out of that for developers fee. But that is something else, you know. No equity. Where's your equity? At least if you have provided the land and then the passport money then come and it finishes the project, fair enough. And to add insult to injury, you had what they call foreign contractors. The Chinese, MMC, the Chinese who built it. No local entrepreneur, no local contractor, insulting Dominicans, and majority of the workers were Chinese. What are we talking about? Our own money still have to keep Dominicans at the back. What is this, brothers? Brothers
You
and sisters,
know,
what is this?
so you keep saying it is his. I don't know how it is his because, as I said, this is CBI, but it's from the CBI that belongs to the state. So anything coming out of that transaction should belong to the state. So if the government decides to convert cash into real estate, then all they're doing, they're converting an asset of government. You had the cash. Cash is a liquid asset. You decide to change it to convert that asset into something more permanent. So you're converting cash into a hotel in this case, into real estate, right? All you've done is you've changed the nature of the asset. You've not changed the ownership. It still belongs to the state because that's the state's money. That is the
Yes,
state's money. So that
yes.
idea that state's money becomes an individual's money to have and to own makes absolutely no sense. And that's why I'm reminding all those who would hear that this is state property. And that's very important. That's all I'll say on it for now. But let me be very clear. All we have is a change in the nature of the asset. It's moved from cash, 75 million cash from that belonged to the state into a $75 million property. You've converted it. The ownership has not changed. And so any government coming in must look into that because that's supposed to belong to the state. Similarly, any other property where it can be proven that it was on account of the sale of passports, then that belongs to the state. And that is the reason why we are in court, trying to force the court to let the government do what is right, which is to move all of those monies that are outside of the treasury back into the treasury. Because if that money was in the treasury, we would probably have a different outcome in terms of who has access to it. The fact it is not in the treasury does not make it any less belonging to the government. That is not Skerritt's private funds. Yeah, if you have $75 million of your private money, then give it to your friend. But we know you don't have $75 million of your own money because you have been working for 10,000 EC dollars a month. So you
Yes,
cannot have accumulated, and you have no other business anyway, as far as we know. So you could not have accumulated the $75 million. So it's not your money to give. It's not your money to give. And so that is something, that we have to be very mindful about, that this money belongs, or this property belongs to the state.
well, yes, and I'm happy that you were able to clarify it again. But remember, according to the contractor or the developer, when he had his interview on Matt, it appeared that the way he spoke, that this is his property. And now that you cleared this, I mean, now we see a contradiction. So there is no, it become contentious here. So he'll have to now tell us how it becomes his property. But
Well, yeah, all becomes your
yeah,
property.
yeah.
My house, I can tell is my property. Well, how is it mine? It is mine because I went to the bank and I borrowed a loan and I'm repaying the bank every month. So it's my property now. In fact, not
Yes,
even mine. It is mine until I finish paying the bank.
that's
The
correct.
bank still owns it because if tomorrow I stop paying, the bank can take it away from me. All right.
That is correct.
So, but at least you can show you have at least temporary ownership. But in this case, where did you get the money from? The
That's
money
right.
came from state resources.
I'm laughing, developers fee. Developers fee, 12 million.
You know,
Developers fee. Boy, that is something else. You boy,
so
yeah, I cannot understand.
so here you have it. So you have individuals getting this largesse, and then you have public servants. As I said, you have people working the graveyard shift, for example, or poor nurses having to work in this very difficult environment in a hospital that sometimes does not have the medicines that they can administer to the patients. So they must be suffering for that and those late and long and difficult shifts that they have. And they can get an increase, and yet you have money to give away in that quantity to develop those types of resource. And so I see a real problem with that, where these monies could have been used, for example, to secure a couple boats so that we could be shipping the produce of the farmers. When you think of the amount of bananas and dashing and other crops that are rotting on the vine here in Dominica because of the lack of access to markets, and the government could have used those CBI proceeds to enable our farmers. And mark you, so these are the same farmers, that come back and vote for this government, and I don't understand it. Don't they understand that this government had enough money to create access for their markets, and now they're struggling?
Sure.
I mean, we have a very small thing doing with Bernie Ryan, from St. Joseph, exporting some dashings and so on. And the supply is incredible. People almost on a weekly basis, persons are calling because they're hearing of it and they have dashing. Hey, I have probably 20 bags. Another person, I have at least 40 bags. I have, how much, half acre, all of that planted in dashing, and it is ready. Dexter is not taking any, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And you think that this government,
and you're not in office.
and
But
I'm,
yet
you
you're
know,
doing
and I'm
this.
not in office, but
And
we are
this is a trade,
trying.
and you are actually creating trade for the farmers.
Yes, and imagine a government that has the capabilities and the ability to open up these markets. They're not doing it. And they're giving $75 million. I mean, you could have bought a boat with that money.
That's
for God's sake.
laughable, yeah. That's laughable.
Or two boats. One to go north, one to go south.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that this government has absolutely no intention of helping our people, but they will take the state resources and give it to a gentleman, and now he goes on radio and boasts that he owns 99.9%.
That's
that
right.
it is his. Well,
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see in a few years' time what the courts have to say about this, who owns
Yeah.
what.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and that's the reason why, as I said, that particular case is before the courts, which will force government to bring back every single cent from the sale of passports into the treasury where it belongs. Because it seems to me the prime minister is probably of the notion that because the monies are not coming back into the treasury, that it does not belong to the people and to the country. It does not belong to the government. Somehow he has this idea that this money is his and he can give it to whomever he pleases. So we have Anichi being built, we have this hotel, we have this order and so on. And, the fact of the matter is it does not work so. That's not the way it works.
Yes.
And,
So in the meantime, we wish Ocean Oasis Hotel well. We wish that it can generate the kind of fund and to create the kind of employment level that we need. At least it will remove some people who have not been employed. I hope it's new employment it will create. And sometimes, because we have some level of employment, we have people who lost their jobs and seeking jobs. We have persons who are just entering the employment market. So, I mean, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. So, that is something else. But I just want to say, though, Doc, that with all of what we have been discussing here, it is important that, people take these things seriously.
yes.
And so how it is that we are going to take these things seriously? We have right now, confirmation centers are open. And in the meantime, we can use one of our IDs to get confirmed and to get to our respective confirmation centers in our area were designated to get confirmed, so that once we got confirmed, when closure comes to that aspect, we will be counted on the new list. So we are encouraging those who, of course, have the IDs and to get confirmed in their respective constituencies. And while we work on actually those who have been struggling without an ID to get them there, and to do strategically, we are doing what we have to do to get our people to the confirmation center. We don't have to tell you exactly what we are doing, but we are working behind the scenes. So we're just encouraging everyone, because that's the way we're going to do it. If we want to be modeling on what happened in St. Vincent, and we want a better Dominica, we all should be geared towards getting confirmed and ready to act whenever this electoral bell is rung. So we are asking you strongly, and we are advocating again on behalf of the United Workers' Party And to all of the constituencies over Dominica, we add labor rights, UWP rights, freedom rights. Everybody, there's no rights in that. We're talking about democracy and preservation of our democracy. And elections are one of the things that we know that is, of course, it is one of the pillars of our democracy. And we're asking to preserve this democracy of voting who you want in a fair way. We are asking that you get your name get confirmed as you are registered on the list and so ready to act. So, Doc, I sure you would like to say something on this because this is where we are going with all of this. We are talking tonight, but we are also incorporating what is necessary to get the work done with respect to removing this government from office.
Yes, indeed. So we certainly want to encourage persons to continue the confirmation process, even as we fight to have the birth certificate reintroduced. And let me just say, we have had a small victory. I say small victory because we still have a long ways to go. I don't know if you recall, even on this program, so when we suggested to the electoral office that it should, instead of having the people of Trafalgar and those other major villages go to the centers, that the centers should come to them.
Right.
In other words, the enrollment officers. Well, I'm pleased to announce that, they're responding to some extent, and that Mont Prosper will have, for the first time, Mont Prosper will have a center opened on Wednesday, this Wednesday. In 2 days' time, it will be at the Yahweh House of Worship, where they'll be having the persons registered. But one day is not enough. I hope that's just the beginning, that they will keep coming again and again until all the persons in that village are confirmed. And we want to see the same repeated for Warner, all of the other exactly. Yes. All the other areas that do not have confirmation centers, that a day or two is set aside where the enrollment officers can go to those communities and get them confirmed. So we certainly want to encourage persons to get confirmed. That's the only way you're going to maintain your name on the list of voters. That's one way that the voters list will be cleansed, and that will make way, of course, for the issuance of a voter ID to allow persons to vote.
And you see, people must understand the hard work that we do. We're not going to take praise for ourselves, but we know we advocate and we strongly advocate. Some people say we're talking too much. Why are we doing this? No, we have to talk. Had we not been talking, and the reason why we're talking truth to power. Because the reason why we are talking this language to you is because we are on the ground gathering data. How do we know that there is no center in Mont Prosper? How do we know that there is no confirmation center in either Girodel or Egliston? Because we interact with the people, and the people are telling us things that we must convey on their behalf. And that is why now, I don't want to congratulate the electoral office, That was necessary for the people in terms of not showing a level of disenfranchisement to the people. So I want to at least acknowledge that the work that we are doing have not fallen on deaf ears, and we want to at least say to the electoral office, you are doing the right thing now, trying to find out where you have these loopholes and to get them filled up so that people will feel encouraged to move towards getting confirmed as opposed to being frustrated. You shouldn't have an electorate frustrated. You should have an electorate excited to get to the various centers to get confirmed and to exercise their franchise. And we'll continue to advocate on their behalf. And no one will stop us from talking. If we were making débat, we'd be known for making débat. But we are talking now. We should be known for talking, acting, and being on the ground and doing what is necessary. Because right now, what is happening is as a result of what we have learned on the ground and convey through social media, through the various medium, so that the electoral office could have heard the voices knocking and ponging at the ears to tell them, look, they need to reassess and evaluate some of the conversion centers because some of them are too far from the people, and put it to the nearest convenient spot so that people can participate, Doc.
Yes, absolutely. So, we certainly will take some credit for that. But like I said, more needs to be done. Warner, all of these areas that we've identified in writing in our press release, we made it public that those areas need to be served. And again, we're appealing to the Electoral Commission to reinstate SRO rather, 39, number 39, which allows for the use of birth certificates along with a photo ID to be used as a means of confirmation, because there are many persons who do not have the resources or they do not have the current IDs that are being requested. And since the birth certificate forms the basis upon which you can get all of these IDs, without a birth certificate, you will not be able to get a passport. You will not be able to get a driver's license. You will not be able to get a social security card. So if the key document that is required for you to get these documents, why is it not being used? It just seems to me common sense, and that will take care, because like I said, there were thousands of Dominicans who do not have the IDs that are being called for, and we're making an appeal, and we'll continue to appeal until this particular issue is resolved. We need the reintroduction of the birth certificate along with the photo ID to be used for persons can confirm their names on the list. Imagine you're already on the list, You're already on the list. Why can't you use a birth certificate? If you're not on the list, to get on the list, you're allowed to use your birth certificate and only your birth certificate to get on the list in the first place. So why can't you use the list to continue to affirm your place on that list? Okay, so the electoral office, they have certainly gotten it wrong. They need to fix that and fix that immediately, because time is passing by already. We are approaching 2 months, all right? A whole month and a half has gone since the process started. And we need to ensure that all those who want to be confirmed are allowed to do so.
And I'm very encouraged by those who have been already confirmed. I get calls every day. So, boy, I've confirmed and I brought a friend, and this is the kind of spirit. So Dominicans are excited about this and they would like to go forward. But again, electoral office, you have the chief election officer, you have a responsibility, a civic responsibility to the Dominican people. For those who are now appearing to be disenfranchised without having either of the IDs that you are requesting, we are saying to you that, look, the birth paper with the ID, with the picture ID, and the affidavit of identity is suffice and should be used as one of the options for getting confirmed. And so we are advocating strongly on behalf of those who are actually facing that sort of challenge to be furnished with the necessary opportunity and that package to get confirmed. Yeah. Somebody saying that every passport that sells from the country of Dominica, where does the money supposed to go? In someone else's pocket or the treasury of Dominica? Please tell me, well-educated man. Well, let me just tell you, Texter, that the money should go in the consolidated fund, in the treasury of Dominica. In the treasury of Dominica. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why we're fighting in the courts today. And let me say thank you to all the Dominicans who have supported that effort, because Dominicans dug into their pockets to provide the tens of thousands of dollars that was needed or is needed to allow the case to move forward. And we are very fortunate that the people of Dominica has responded, and hopefully we will get some satisfaction from the courts.
Yes, and again, another milestone in our development. I mean, we have been talking about the CBI for a very long time. It has been spoken about. Now it's action time, and it seems to me there are positive signs, and the support that you patrons give out there, you the citizens of Dominica, fan-wide, all over the world, Dominicans supporting. We just want to thank you for the support that your kind patronage, and we want to say to you that we ask God to continue to bless your finances, because we know that you work very hard for your money, and supporting cause like that and getting victory is very important. So at least we are seeing some light at the end of the tunnel, and it seems to me this case is going in the direction of the people, and the people will have their say and will get the answers that is so required to move forward. Because you cannot have state money being used vike and willy. State money is supposed to be up to go into the consolidated fund and let the people of Dominica at least have their say and to hear. So Doug, let me just congratulate you again as leader of this beautiful, wonderful, great party, again, to show leadership in that respect with your team, and to have this lawyer from Trinidad look at that. And so far, it appears that we are actually going to get some good results. But just before you respond, finally, because we are coming to the end of the program, I'm reading this one again, another comment. The idea that government owns employment programs should meet the wage standards it sets for private employers is a common point of public debate and policy discussion concerning fair labor practices and fiscal consistency. I think that's a brilliant idea.
Yes, it is.
Brilliant.
It is, because as we are saying, how can you tell the private sector to do it and you ain't doing it? It makes
Yeah,
no sense to
brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
it. And so Mark, you within the NEP program, there are thousands of workers, huh? There are thousands of
Of
workers that
course.
are currently engaged in the NEP. So imagine if these people are given the fair wages that the government wants to impose on the private sector, then we could see, it would be a major infusion of resources into the country, and it will certainly help the economic situation.
Yes, and just to answer one person there who says, I'm on the list, but I have a Dutch birth certificate. Well, for you, this scholar, I will tell you straight based on the legislation of Registrations Act. What it is saying is that you have to be bona fide Dominican, and you have to have a Dominica passport, you have to have a Dominica ID, and that's what and you have to get to Dominica to confirm. So if you're on the list, yes, for sure, but you have a Dutch birth certificate. If you have a Dominican passport, wherever you are, you can come to Dominica and get confirmed. Is that the case, Doc?
Yes, with a Dominica passport, but any foreign passport, then
No way.
no, does
Yeah,
not
yeah,
work. Yeah.
well, Doc, let me just thank you again and to the many persons who have contributed to this program. Again, you have been listening to Real Talk, a program that we keep every Monday at from 8 to 9. And tonight we explore some, areas where we had to, explore what is happening in the region, particularly elections. And we had to talk about the minimum wage and see how the government rushed into putting something. And in their rushing, they were not careful enough and actually instituted something that have already been, already on the ball already. Some persons, employers have been paying more than what the government is proposing. And I'm happy that Dr. Fontaine was able to clarify our party's position with respect to the minimum wage being $12 and what are the other added incentives to the employers, what would have been going to them. So, Doc, let me thank you for your time and thank you to everyone who have contributed tonight. And just before we finally go down, your parting words to the listening public.
Yes, let me just again thank everyone for joining us and for your comments as well, taking the time off to comment and to feedback. We had a very wonderful crowd here tonight listening. Let me encourage you as well as we go forward to keep sharing the live, letting your friends know that it's happening every Thursday. We'll be there with a matter of national interest. That's what consumes us, that's what concerns us, issues of national importance. We are not there to bash
No.
individuals necessarily, but to really focus on the issues because our desire is to make your lives better. Our desire is to ensure that we have a country that, that the people of Dominica can be proud of. As it is, our people are running in all directions away from Dominica. We want to reverse that trend. We want the Dominican diaspora to come back into Dominica, to invest in this country, to have a stake in this country, to live in this country, and to help build this country. And so we'll continue to work in that regard. Let me say a big thank you to the scores, the tens of persons that we met, over the past few days as we went to the various constituencies, talking to people at their homes, on the blocks, and so on. We are very, very interested. We are very happy to know that is happening. I know persons are saying, well, you should be having public meetings only. Where are the public meetings? Where are the public meetings? Well, there are different ways to get the message across. The public meeting is an excellent way. But the house to house is also a great way. You cover, at least you have people's attention. When you're out there in a public meeting, you're hoping that your words are going through the walls of the person's house and they turn off the television and listen to you. Since a number of persons are afraid to come out to public meetings, because of that fear. So you're hopeful that they can hear you. But when you knock on the door, you get a chance to talk to them. They're listening to you. They have no choice but to listen to you. So, I don't think it is one or the other. I think both of them have their place. And so, so let me just say that, and I'm saying that particularly because several persons have told me privately, why don't you guys just do public meetings? Public meetings, public meetings. That is the answer. I'm saying, yes, there's a role for public meetings. There's also a role for what we're doing, the town halls, the one-on-one engagements, that is also a good way, especially when you have some time in the election process. Now is a good time. You have to explain to people the confirmation process. They want to know. So when you're doing some work yesterday, a number of persons were asking, said, okay, well, we have this elderly person there. How are they going to confirm? You explain that to them. How can we get a birth certificate, driver's license? How can we, if we don't have those? So you have to answer all of those queries. So it has its place. And I just wanted to kind of state that because the persons, that have been reaching out to me and that, just wanted you to know that we are conscious of that and we'll continue to do our best to bring the message, which is very important to the people of Dominica. But as we bring the message, let me say a big thank you to all of you who continue to listen to us. And we certainly look forward to our continued engagement with you.
Yes, thanks again, Doc. But I want to at least strengthen your point and to say too, this is the time now is right for educating and meeting people. Right now, the atmosphere has less noise. People are listening to you. When the atmosphere will be full of noises, you cannot really educate because people, you see this Labour Party, what they do, they put show up, this party. So when they have young people partying and so we will have time to listen. So yes, there are many ways to communicate, but one of the ways we believe right now is to go to the house to house, meet people on the ground. And obviously public meetings, we will have a number of them coming up and scheduled. So yes, we are talking to the people one-on-one. We are meeting them at the constituency level, and also we'll meet them by public meetings and even so mass meetings as well. So the best way to end tonight, as we put on the curtain, one person is saying, we have to encourage our people to please go out and register to vote and also to get confirmed. Encourage our young people or people to go out and register to vote and to get confirmed. And I believe, Doc, that is the best way to put on the curtains of this program tonight. Let me say thank you again. Have a good night. A blessed week to you, a productive week to you. Until next time, we say good night. So
Good
long.
night and God bless.
Bless.
Thank you.
Yeah.